How to become a better communicator as a man, to find the right woman, to keep her attracted, and to become more effective in your business and your career in all areas. Around a year or two ago, I was interviewed by News Talk Radio in Ireland, and I want to analyze how I handled this interview because there are extremely important lessons in it for you. I haven't scripted this, so we're going to do this off the cuff, but it'll be very, very useful for you to understand how to deal with certain challenging questions, the overall frame. And yeah, let's just crack right on in. The lady who did the interview, by the way, she asked some very challenging questions, put it, which is perfectly fine. She did exactly what she was supposed to do. She was super nice, super friendly. I think we had a great conversation, even though she was definitely trying to challenge me, which is exactly what her job is. Let's take a look.
Social media personality David Meessen is with me here on Lunchtime Live. David.
And it was funny, by the way, when I met my Irish clients afterwards, because obviously I have clients from, or have had clients from nearly 50 countries, most of them being in the US. My Irish clients afterwards, I met them and they were like, wow, you handled this extremely well. Because imagine yourself in this situation in one of the biggest news shows, okay? Imagine you being in it. How would you have handled it if somebody's about to ask you the questions that I was asked?
You describe yourself as a dating expert.
And understand the frames, okay? And everything I'm saying, I have nothing but respect for the lady interviewing me, okay? She did exactly what she was supposed to do. But let's analyze it at a technical level, what you did here. You describe yourself as. Become aware of the phrases and the frames people are putting into the conversation. You are describing yourself as. Not you are, you're describing yourself as. There's already an implied challenge in there, or at least questioning the credentials, if you will.
Man, is that right?
Yeah, dating and relationships, yeah.
Dating and relationships. Life coach.
Dating and relationships. See how I added relationships? Because it's not just about dating, because the guys who come to me, they want to find the right girlfriend or wife.
Is that
the
area it's in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to say more, sometimes you want to say less. You'll see that at certain parts in this interview, I'll say more at certain points, and sometimes I'll say less.
How did you get into it?
Long story. So I was married to somebody who wasn't right for me. That was a painful learning experience. Not necessarily because there was anything wrong with her or with me. I think it was just a lack of compatibility. And
very important, by the way, if you're on a date as a man or you meet somebody new, in any situation, if you talk about your past relationship, just say it was a lack of compatibility. You don't need to go into details, blame somebody. And it's genuinely true. My ex-wife is a good person. We really weren't compatible. But leave it at that. If you're on a date, somebody asks you, why aren't you compatible anymore? Why aren't you together anymore? Lack of compatibility. You can even say that if you were applying for a new position, lack of compatibility. If you talk about business partners, formers, just lack of compatibility. Leave it at that. Stay respectful. Don't talk bad about other people.
I was working for a tech company here in Dublin at the time, and I met somebody who was in this dating and relationship space for many years. He probably could have been a coach himself. He's just a bit more of a private person. He became a mentor of mine. I started learning from him. I learned from people in the personal development field, in the relationship field. I'm not a doctor or a psychologist. I'm certified by the...
Very important, by the way. Don't ever, I mean, you probably don't do this, right? But don't ever claim anything about yourself that isn't true. Stay accurate, okay? It is true that I have learned from some of the best psychologists in the world, but I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychotherapist, okay? That's how people get screwed, especially there's people in my space who've made claims about their credentials that they don't have.
Irish Life Coach Institute, but I had a great variety of different teachers. And so I experienced a lot of pain in my relationship because I believe there's a lot of women who suffer in relationships. Men do as well, if they're not right for each other. And I realized I always liked coaching. I was coaching karate at Meessen University many years ago.
Okay.
Always liked working with people. And now I've worked with men from 30 countries and helped them find someone.
Which is true, by the way. Little side note about me. Part of the reason I do coaching is because I always loved working with people. When I was teaching karate at my university in Ireland, it was men and women. Watching them become way more confident through the vehicle karate. For me, just the vehicle changed. Now it's dating, relationships, and maybe broader personal development. But back in the day, it was karate, right? So the reason in my heart, I feel like I'm the best in the world at what I do is because I care deeply. Not only because I've taken a very German and systematic approach to it, but because I also really care.
Get a better social life.
But anyway, this part of the conversation is just a little introduction.
From Germany, living in Ireland, but went to college in Maynooth. Is that? Yeah.
Also, look how I approached this entire conversation with a very friendly vibe. There's no hostility from my end. Hey, we're friends. We're buddies. Okay? Don't justify yourself. Don't over-explain. Assume a collaborative, positive approach.
That's the round trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm just so happy to be there. I'm just happy to have a great time. I like talking to people, okay? I genuinely believe if you were to talk to most people, we could find common ground.
how do you help, as you describe it, and on your Instagram or social media sites, how do you help men find the right woman?
Yeah, so first of all, they have to become aware of what do they actually want. It's very difficult to hit a target if you don't even know what you're aiming for. Most people, and that applies to men and women, we just stumble into relationships because we meet somebody who happens to be at work, in the social circle, but the probability that you're going to find somebody who's actually right for you if you're not really aiming for compatibility in values and personality is very low. So the first thing is, who am I? What do I stand for? What are my values? And then find somebody who believes the same as I believe. Because it's very difficult if you have to have fundamental discussions around values all the time. So what do I want? And then it's about creating more options, right? You can meet people on dating apps, you can meet people in person, get more dates, then learn how to communicate effectively on dates. And a lot of that is around authenticity, because I'm sure you've heard this, like, nice guys finish last, which is absolute nonsense, because I don't think there's anything wrong with being nice. But I'm sure you'd agree, and you can tell me whether you do or not. What women don't like is men who are fake, who agree when they don't feel like agreeing. Being nice is amazing. How are you going to have any relationship if you can't be nice or kind? But they don't want somebody who's fake. And so help them improve the communication. How do I communicate my needs on a eye-level relationship type of way? Because most men or women, they end up either the slave or the relationship, the slave or the tyrant in a relationship, where it's not truly on eye level. They can't communicate their needs, because if I communicate a need and I'm afraid she or he won't be able to meet it, and then I'm faced with the possibility of losing that person, well, that makes it very difficult for me to communicate that. But if I don't communicate my needs, I won't be happy.
So is it, like, do you describe it in the category of, is it kind of uber masculinity?
All right, now we get to some interesting stuff. Uber masculinity. Look at my eyes. I'm like happy. I'm excited. Let's go. I studied logic in university. It was literally one of the subjects that I studied as part of my business degree in university. I love this shit.
Is it nowhere near
I'm like, I see what you did there. But again, my vibe is not hostile.
that? Like, what level would you put it on, or what tier?
What do you mean by uber masculinity?
See, if you don't know how somebody meant something, just ask them. Place the burden of explanation on them.
I know, I'm just trying to get a sense of, like, when you talk.
Oh no, I'm just trying to get a sense of, okay, fine. Like, but what do you mean with uber masculinity? Use the word. Now explain it, please.
Talk about the power struggle, element of it. Like, what?
Power struggle element. Okay. Continue. So far, a non sequitur, not logically connected. What's the explanation?
Is it about men being more masculine? Is it not about that?
Is it about men being more masculine? Yes. Now we need to carefully define what masculinity is.
Yeah, so I think we all, men and women, we all have masculine and feminine energy in us.
Very important. This is true, okay? If you want to become a better communicator, we have to understand that good communication has two components: authenticity and effectiveness. You want to be radically honest, you want to be honest, tell the truth, and you want to be effective. There is a way in which you can be authentic and ineffective, and you can be authentic and effective. So it is true that we all, as men and women, have masculine and feminine energy in us. It is important that I bring this up, because obviously she's trying to frame me in a certain way, which is, again, it's her job. She's supposed to do that, right? She's supposed to challenge. That's the goal of journalism. They're supposed to challenge people. Again, she did everything correct.
Right, to varying degrees. And absolutely it's about men being more masculine. Now, that being said, people interpret that in very, very different ways. I don't think there's one clear definition for what that means.
You don't mean control.
You don't mean control. Very clear question. Now, what do I believe about this?
No, absolutely not.
And I genuinely don't. This is not me being virtue signaling, okay? Because Marshall Rosenberg, founder of Nonviolent Communication, he says that if one person, or he used to say, because he died many years ago, he said that if one person in a relationship agrees to something that he or she doesn't want to do, both people will pay for it. My uncle called this a foul compromise. If you don't want to do something, don't do it. I genuinely don't believe it.
No, I don't think anybody should control anybody in a relationship. Because that's not the aim of the game. Do you want to be in a relationship with a slave? No, you don't want to be. That, first of all, is disrespectful to the person. Second of all, that's not good for you. People are in that relationship. There are men who are in relationships with women who are trying to control the lady. There's the opposite is also definitely true. That's not going to make you happy. No, you want to have a relationship on eye level. It's not, these are my rules and you have to adhere to them. No, but like, this is how I want to live my life. Oh, you want to...
Hotel phone room. Ignore it. Turn it off. Don't answer it right now. Thank you, babe. Just turn it off.
Live your life 80-90% the same way. That's great. We have a lot of compatibility.
Thank you, babe. Somebody in the hotel room calling us.
And then the rest we can negotiate.
So you think so? It's finding the balance. Is that right? I don't
Yeah, absolutely.
Balance, but
yeah, of course.
The balance in what both.
And what I would have added there now, obviously, as big as my ego is, as big as my confidence is, there's obviously things that I look at that I could have improved here. What I would have added now is the balance is always individual. There's only individual agreements. You don't make rules at a societal level. What works for one couple doesn't work for another. You just got to be true with yourself. The reason you have to choose the right woman from abundance is because you can find somebody that's compatible with you.
People want.
Yeah, I believe in individual happiness.
Okay, I do say it. Okay, great.
So, and individual happiness is absolutely individual. Some people, if we talk about this idea of gender roles, traditional gender roles, for some people...
Oops. I like how I throw it in here because it's implied, right? She's not bringing it up. But obviously, let me bring up some of the generic talking points that are usually associated with somebody who might be doing what I'm doing. Nowhere near on the level that I'm doing it because it doesn't exist, but who's trying to do what I'm doing. What happens is they say that, oh, like they call it like toxic masculinity, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean, okay? There are unhealthy behaviors and disrespectful behaviors that can be done by a man or done by a woman. Masculinity has absolutely nothing to do with that, okay? It makes no sense in and of itself. But let me preemptively strike a concern some people might have about gender roles. And let me give you my honest opinion, which is also disarming. The reason I win in this interview is because I have nothing to hide. If you have nothing to hide, eventually you win. Because I have good intentions. I'm not against women. If you watch any of my content, I only have pure positivity. I provoke you as a man and I challenge you. That's not to say that there aren't crazy women out there. There's crazy men out there. There's crazy people out there for sure. And most people aren't right for you. But I genuinely don't blame women. No, I don't say that. I say you need to find the people who are compatible with you, right? But assume the responsibility you have as an individual. That's genuinely what I believe. Because if you're going to be a well-functioning member of society, if you're going to be a man in any way, shape, or form, you're not going to blame the donut for jumping in your mouth.
They're great. For some people, they're not so great, right? And I think people got to find their own way.
You run courses, is that right, beyond your social media?
Now, this is going to get interesting because she'll challenge me on the seminar that we did. Yeah, this is interesting. Let's see.
Sites you held a seminar, would that be the right description for it in Dublin?
I'm like, yeah, we did. And it was awesome.
Again, was it a sort of a covert?
Pay attention to that word.
Seminar, or was it kind of restricted, the details around it? I was struggling to find out.
What do you mean by covert?
One of the biggest mistakes you can make is defend yourself against what you assume she or he said. Just ask for clarification and then you can go into it. Because otherwise, you'll make a whole defense, then the person goes, that's not what I meant, and then you waste the time and you come across as a lot less competent. Just clarify, what do you mean by covert? And then we can address the specific point.
Was it did people know initially where it was happening? Was it advertised?
It was very much advertised. The location we only gave to the people who actually signed up for it. But everything else was pretty evident, yeah.
So you advertised is it a coaching day? Is that how?
So yeah, it was a coaching day. It was like a free seminar. It was a bit long. It was 9 hours.
Right.
And we covered a lot of stuff. Yeah, more than we'd be able to fit on a website.
Okay. So you signed up. So you were going to run the event for 9 hours in Dublin, and then you only found out where it was happening when you registered for it.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yes.
And
yes.
why is that? Out of curiosity.
Because we didn't know who was going to show up. I mean, we had security, but we didn't know who was going to show up.
Well, what would the concern be about people showing up?
Just a security.
First of all, in any event, you have security. Second of all, if it's a free event, you don't know who's going to come. So we vetted people beforehand before we send out the address. That's it.
Security concern.
Is that something?
And by the way, it's not political or anything. It's not about weeding people out. It's just about being aware that if it's a free seminar, anybody could come. It's general security. And I swear to God, there was not much more to it. There was no reason why we didn't give I think, to be honest, it was partially that. And it was partially, we hadn't narrowed down the hotel yet. We didn't know exactly which hotel we're going to do because different hotels have different room sizes. It was either that. I swear to God, there was not much more to it. It was hilarious how some people then figure, they select one little point. They're like, this is it. This is what we're going to get you for. It's funny.
You've had to deal.
But again, she's doing everything right by challenging me on that point. Why wouldn't she? Now, there's other things she could have challenged that would have been a little bit more interesting or more exciting, but fair point. But eventually it's like, look, it's just a security thing. Let's move on from this.
Previously, or
It was a recommendation by consultants, yeah.
to have.
That's security for sure, because you don't know, because it was a free event, we didn't ask anybody to pay for it.
Okay, so is there anything in particular?
Even the way she says, okay, be aware of this, right? It's perfectly fine. Just understand how things are being framed, the tone of the conversation.
That you're worried about, like, as in. No, just.
No. That's it! This is something you can do in relationships as well. Don't justify yourself. Explain, but don't over-explain. Very important. Sometimes there's time to go on rants, and other times it's time to be concise. You see this with guys who have a lot of money. The guys who have a lot of money, they, not always, but they often tend to talk less in certain ways. Some talk a lot, but the guys who are the biggest bullshit artists in the world, they talk the most, okay? I talk a lot if I'm in a lecturing mode or if I'm in presentation mode, of course. But the richer somebody gets, the more money somebody has, the less they actually talk.
Do consultants advise you to have security at the event?
Yeah, like in any event you would.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So it's a coaching seminar on dating, on values.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of these things. So first, one of the first exercises we did was write down, who am I? Where am I going? What kind of a person do I want in my life? Exactly the same thing that women should be doing as well. What do I want in a man? What am I absolutely not willing to tolerate in a man? And that's exactly that, because you get an understanding of what you want. Then, how do I create more options? We talked about a lot of things. We talked about boundaries. We talked about how do I actually start a conversation in a respectful way. A lot of things, yeah.
Okay. And it went on for 9 hours.
It did, yeah.
Of coaching. How do you measure success in something like this?
Defined by the individual client's goals. So almost all clients who come to me, they actually want to find a relationship. They don't just want to have fun, right? They actually want to have a relationship. But the way you find a relationship is you create a couple of options for yourself first. Dating is the way to find a relationship. That's the difference between me and some other people out there, and I'm not going to talk bad about anybody by name. I'm not interested in that. But
And I genuinely am not. There's people who will attack me on social media, which is hilarious, by the way, which I never engage in. And if I ever engage in it, it's in a very positive way. I am not interested in engaging with hate. That doesn't deserve an answer. And if it's a semi-fair criticism, then you can engage with it on the level of the information and say, hey, that's a fair point. This is not a fair point. Don't engage in battles. Don't engage in hate. Is not your time. If you're a man who's crushing it in your career or your business, your time is valuable.
some people, they advertise, let's call it intimacy, as the end goal, having intimacy with as many women as possible. That's not really satisfying. That's not really good for anybody in the long term. I mean, people should do whatever they want, right? But what you really want is you want to have a relationship, but you got to get a little bit of experience and you got to get some options to be able to choose somebody, because otherwise you're not going to end up with that person. So it's about creating options and then choosing somebody, and then she chooses you. She does the exact same thing, and then you overlap.
So that's the kind of, I suppose, exercises, if you want to call it that you talk about or that you were doing.
Yeah, one of many things. Yeah.
Yeah, one of many. Okay. Is there an age profile typically that might, is it? It's mainly men. It's all men. Is it?
It's mostly men. Yeah, my fiance was there. My brother's fiance was there, just because family.
Yeah.
But it's mainly men. Yes.
It's mainly men. And
I do work with women on a one-on-one basis, but I have like one-on-one programs, group programs. But with women, I can only work on a one-on-one basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was reading. Obviously, I wasn't there. I wasn't at the event, but I did read some commentary about it afterwards.
So it was funny. We had a journalist at this free seminar who then decided to write an article about it. And it's funny, if you read the article, if you Google my name, it comes up. It says Toxic Masculinity, Jordan Peterson, David Meessen, Andrew Tate. Hilarious, right? And so it was a really funny article, because in the beginning you can see, and I remember exactly who it was because I had a conversation with him, because he asked some questions. And I thought I had a great interaction with him. You can see in the beginning that he wanted to shit on the whole thing more, but he realized, oh, it's actually good. So he said there were some really wholesome aspects to it. But then there was one funny moment where I go on a rant and I say some crazy silly shit. Sometimes we're like, I start ranting and I say some provocative stuff, right? As you do, as a joke sometimes. And then they pick something and then take it out of context. The article, not this lady, but the article that was written about it, which prompted this interview, by the way. And I think she may be referring to, she's not referring to the entire article, but some of it. And so it's funny how people, when they have an agenda, they can take something entirely out of context. That's why it's always important to view the bigger picture.
I suppose in summary, and
But again, look at my vibe. I'm having a great time. Like, this is awesome.
to quote, not to misquote anybody, but I suppose it was described as being a kind of a wholesome mix of practical advice about, you know, people talking openly and honestly about what they want and dealing with the impacts of, you know, maybe relationship breakdown, but that there was also a measure of misogyny in there as well.
I read that as well, yeah.
Now watch. Now it gets genius. There was a measure of misogyny. Listen to this. This is a masterclass, my friend.
How does that sit with you?
I don't even know what that word means.
Boom! I don't even know what that word means. Keep listening.
Misogynistic.
Yeah, I don't even know. But maybe it's because English is my second language, but I don't even know what that word means.
I speak English better than 99.9% of native speakers, but I don't know what the word means. Well, I truly don't know what the word means, because if we would have gone into it, she never goes on to define it, by the way. But if we look at what the word actually means, it means hate for women. My next question is, what? All 4 billion of them? Or the one person who was actually rude, I felt a temporary sense of unpleasant emotions towards her, which then faded eventually because all emotions have a half-life. What exactly are you referring to when you mean hate women? Who? Like, hate how? And then whom? No, I have zero hate towards women as a whole in my heart. And they are people. They are people who are giving advice to men on the internet who have hate towards women in their heart. I don't know. Fernando never cheated on me, so as far as I know, right, babe? She goes, mm-hmm. If that were to ever happen, I don't know. Maybe I'd be a bit more negative or nihilistic towards this whole dating thing. But Fernando and I, we've been in a relationship for 6.5 years. I've helped men from 45 countries. I got a little WhatsApp call. We continue, no problem. So since that's never happened to me, I have a very positive outlook on life. But that may not even be the real reason. I think if Fernando were to do that, I'd probably return back to a baseline of positivity and optimism. I think that's just who I am, because I fundamentally believe in the good of human beings. So what I want you to understand is that I genuinely believe that most people are good people. Most men are good people. Most women are good people. Most people aren't compatible with who you truly are. Just because somebody's a good person doesn't mean they're compatible with you. So what I would encourage you to do, again. Little WhatsApp call, no problem, we continue. So what I want you to understand is that in my heart, even if something were to happen, like Fernando were to cheat on me, the relationship would end, which is never going to happen. But if it were, then I'd return to my baseline level of positivity and optimism, because I believe in the good of human beings. I genuinely do. Yeah, some people are whack, of course. Some people are terrible people, no problem. Distance yourself from them, focus on the good. But just because somebody's a good person doesn't mean you're compatible with them, okay? So I'm having fun with this, right? That's why this idea of misogyny is so ridiculous to me. Because are there some people who really hate women? Of course. Am I that? Absolutely not. But this is how you can question the premise of what's being said, which is funny. It's like, what does it actually mean? Again, define the terminology, define the words, because then we can have an actual conversation. Otherwise, you're talking about an interpretation, and they'll say, no, I meant something totally different, right? It's like, well, what does it mean? Let's go back a little bit here.
About what they want and dealing with the impacts of, you know, maybe relationship breakdown, but that there was also a measure of misogyny in there as well.
I read that as well, yeah.
How does that sit with you?
I don't even know what that word means.
Misogynistic?
Yeah, I don't even know. But maybe it's because English is my second language, but I don't even know what that word means.
So it's for you, it's not about talking or preaching, maybe isn't the right word, but that sort of the alpha male idea, like, is that?
No, I think I'm different to that, because what does that mean? I think, from my understanding, I'm not an evolutionary biologist, but an alpha male was back in the day when we as human beings lived in tribes of a couple 100,000 people. It was the tribal leader, right? Every tribe had a leader. Well, nowadays, who's the leader of a tribe? I mean, the country has a leader, but like a lot of this alpha male idea is a bit like, I'm going to tell women what to do. And that's not what I stand for.
That's not what the courses are about. It's not sort of prejudice against women or...
Now, how are you going to have a relationship with somebody if you're prejudiced against them?
Let that sink in how genius that was. How are you going to have a relationship with somebody if you're prejudiced against them? I don't even know where that came from. I just channeled my God particle. This was so perfect. Go back to this.
But like a lot of this alpha male idea is a bit like...
So alpha male is just a technical term. And then she's trying to see if it's this. She was looking for anything to just really get into it, which is, again, completely fair. That's her job. She's supposed to see if I'm a dickhead. She's supposed to see if I have ill intent. She's supposed to check that, which I don't. So it's cool. So we can talk about it. Now, I'm also not a virtue signaling idiot. I believe in real, raw masculinity compared with loving kindness, which is a very unique approach. You can be very masculine and very loving at the same time.
I'm going to tell women what to do. And that's not what I stand for.
I don't stand for women telling what to do, I don't stand for women telling what to do with men either, okay? I don't stand for anybody telling do what you want to do. I believe in individual happiness, not attached to any particular ideology.
That's not what the courses are about. It's not sort of prejudice against women or...
Now you're going to have a relationship with somebody if you're prejudiced against them. Because if you have a prejudice against somebody, you tell yourself a story, you see the beliefs. It's like any type of prejudice, right? Men towards women, women towards men, people towards different countries. If you have a prejudice, you look at the person through the lens of a story, and you don't actually see the person themselves. You can't have a real relationship.
I could have just said, no, I don't believe in prejudice, fine. Or I said, how are you going to have a relationship with somebody if you're prejudiced against them? Boom! You see how that hits different?
So, like the term alpha male...
She likes to stay on it for a little bit. Okay, cool. See, I'm smiling. I'm like, all right. It's a dance. It's a dance. If you get emotional, I get intense when I'm presenting. When I'm actually having a conversation, you gotta be calmer, you gotta be witty, you gotta think, you gotta view it as a dance. I just get intense and I shout. I'm like, when I'm presenting, because I'm trying to penetrate layers of social conditioning. I'm trying to wake you up.
We read about it a lot online.
I'm like, yeah, this is fun.
You hear about it an awful lot in more recent, I suppose, in the last 2 years, I'd say in particular. And the connotations that are associated with that. And I think for some people, maybe listening to this, and when they even talk about it on social media as well, the concept of really helping men to find the perfect woman, their dream ideal partner, that sort of type of masculinity, if you want to call it that, the success that's nearly associated with it. People often associate success along with assets, like, the car you're driving, the house you have.
I'm smiling like, oh, women are assets? Obviously, I don't believe that, right?
All of this kind of stuff. Like, people often put that in the same category as Andrew Tate. And I'm not suggesting at all that that's the category.
At all.
That you're in or anywhere near that. But how does that sit with you?
How does that sit with you? What does that question mean?
What specifically?
Again, there was a lot. Which part are you referring to?
The whole, I've seen online commentators jokingly sort of refer to you as Irish Andrew Tate.
I read that, yeah, I read that. What in the name of Andrew Tate is going on?
See how it doesn't bother me at all? I'm like, yeah, that was funny.
I don't particularly take comments on the internet.
So she refers to the Andrew Tate part, and I'm going to the comments on the internet. I'm like, people make comments on the internet. So there's 2 points in there. People commenting you online, hate online, and being compared to Andrew Tate. These are 2 different points.
Serious, no.
Doesn't that wouldn't...
In the beginning it did. I've been in the social media game for a bit now. In the beginning you take that to heart. At some point not so much. I also think if people make commentary online... It really depends on the details, right? But I don't tend to get hung up on that. I like to talk to people in person, and I think if we were to have more human-to-human conversations, we could find actually a lot more overlap than shouting at each other online, yeah. But it's not... Regarding the masculinity thing, it depends on how we define that. I think men and women, we all have masculine and feminine energy in us. And there's different definitions of it. But one of the defining characteristics of masculinity, if you will, and we all have that in us, is a degree of being able to disagree. And you shouldn't disagree with somebody because it's a manipulative tactic. But what you want to do is again, it comes down to communicating your needs. If you want to be happy in a relationship, you got to stand up for that. Most men can't even do that. Most men are scared of shit of women. Not from a physical point of view, but from an emotional perspective. Most men can't even... What do most men look like when they go out on a night? They drink a shit ton of alcohol, hoping they'd be able to introduce themselves once at night, because they're really super scared of rejection.
See, this is important. I bring this up not just as a frame, but... Also because it's true. It's important to mention it from a tactical perspective. But hey, I'm helping men. The guys I work with are guys who are crushing it in their career or their business, kind, good-hearted men who want to find a loving relationship. We help them with online dating, with Instagram, with in-person approaches, social circle, with getting quality options to choose the right woman from. And then there's approach anxiety, there's nervousness, right? Oh, it's that, right? You frame it either as evil men or, well, a man is nervous to go and introduce himself. Okay, she doesn't want to talk to you, boom, you talk to the next person. Because the most respectful thing you could do is if she doesn't want to talk to you, you move on and you immediately respect it and you talk to the next person. Boom. While understanding that it is not just a volume game, it is also very much a skill set.
Most men. But then we see the other extreme of desert. You should tell women what to do. That's the other extreme, because the pendulum usually swings. If you have a trend, you have a counter trend. And I don't think either extreme is healthy.
Just to leave off the online aspect of it, like the idea of sort of being jokingly referred to as Irish Andrew Tato, like
I don't know why she had to mention it again.
How do you feel about that?
I don't feel anything about that.
I don't feel anything about that.
Nothing.
I mean,
doesn't...
like my opinion on, is it the Tato thing or is it the Andrew Tate thing? Because these are two different
I
things.
think it's very much the Andrew Tate comparison. Is that
now
what?
you could hear in her voice where she was getting real. Did you hear that? Did you hear how the tone of voice completely changed when it got real? And it doesn't mean that the other stuff wasn't real, but there was a... did you hear that drop? Start paying attention to that, because this is a lesson in human behavior.
That's not at all body.
Well, the thing is, it's very difficult for me to say, well, we have to look at the details. It's like, how am I different or how am I the same? It depends on each individual point of view. Which
is actually true. When it comes to Andrew Tate or anybody in the world, there's things I disagree with and there's things I agree with. Does he share things that are super valuable for humanity and men? Absolutely. Are there some things he probably said as a joke that probably nobody disagrees with, that probably everybody disagrees with, that he probably doesn't even believe himself because it's a joke? Probably also true, right? With any human being on the planet, you're going to agree with certain things and you're going to disagree with certain things. But what's created here is, what people are trying to create are associations. A brand, in other words, my brand, works because it has positive associations. Coca-Cola has associations. Rolex has associations. Audemars Piguet, Patek, they have different associations. A Ferrari has one association. A Lambo in Miami has a different association.
I think with any person that exists on the planet, you can find certain degrees of overlap, and with some you have a lot, with some you have very, very little. But I've gotten, the number one hate comment I get online is, he's a ginger. Like, I've gotten really horrendous hate comments. That's really the soft stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suppose it's the idea of, you know, men looking for help, and I don't mean looking for help. I mean, obviously people use dating websites, everything, you know.
Yeah.
But it's not that. I suppose it's the commentary maybe to men in terms of finding dates or helping people to find dates and what's associated with that. And I wonder.
Well, what is associated with it? What is associated with it?
Is that maybe where people are taking the comparison from?
See, she just implies something, but she doesn't actually say what it is.
Somewhat.
It could be. People are making a lot of comparisons, yeah. But I think that's what women should do as well. You should get a degree of dates or a certain amount of dates until you find somebody.
I bring the human element back into it. I'm saying this is the most normal thing to do dating, to do it properly, to choose somebody. We're not doing anything crazy. We're talking to people, be that online or in person, to see if we're compatible, to create attraction, to get into a relationship. That's it.
It was right for you. Anybody should do that.
And obviously, there's way more system and structure and strategy behind it, right? When it comes to building a good profile, whatever have you, right? To getting the quality options, getting rid of your blind spots, mindset. There is more to it, of course, obviously, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have a job. Otherwise, people wouldn't be paying me the amounts of money that they're paying me for group coaching or one-on-one coaching, of course. But the aim of the game is very simple. You talk to somebody, you get into a relationship. That's it.
Now,
and not just somebody that you're highly compatible with, so you can build a family with, or at least share your life with.
I've had clients who are so religious, they don't want to have any intimacy before marriage at all, and that's also fine. Again, it's individual happiness. I'm not here to prescribe what anybody should or shouldn't do, but there are certain best practices when it comes to communication, when it comes to authentic communication, and you're obviously a very, very skilled communicator, and communicate
doesn't hurt to give somebody a genuine compliment.
Always depends on the context. And if we violate those rules, the probability that we'll have a successful outcome, as in we'll figure out whether there's compatibility or not in that relationship, is a lot lower.
Okay. Some of the listeners tuned in to us at the moment, Dave.
think about all of the different questions that could have been asked and that are being asked. I think it's funny. I think it's entertaining. Again, if you assume I assume positive intent. I assume there's people she wants to protect and she wants to figure out whether there's something rotten in the state of Denmark, which is completely fine, right? If you assume positive intent, you'll have a much more fun interaction. I just like people, man. I like people. Not everybody, but genuinely, I really love human beings. So I'm enjoying this as well. Yeah, cool. Let's have an intellectually challenging debate. It's cool.
David, have a couple of questions for you. This listener is wondering, does David advocate not showing vulnerability? I'm just curious because as a person who found the love of their life and married him at 41 just 2 years ago, I can say that vulnerability is key.
100% agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just this. The problem is if I were to go and say, just be vulnerable and women will love you, that's generic, nonsensical dating advice that doesn't help anybody. Vulnerability, yes, be open, but don't be weak. Okay, I have videos on my YouTube channel explaining, some of them filmed in the Guinness Lake in Ireland, on what vulnerability actually is. Okay, and so it goes way deeper. The problem is it's generic McDonald's personal development wisdom, which is just, don't be vulnerable, toxically masculine. Be vulnerable, yeah, you're one of us. It ain't that simple, okay?
Absolutely.
Show vulnerability.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, can I qualify for a real quick second? Just really briefly. Vulnerability, yes, but that doesn't mean that you need to go and talk about your traumatic past on a first date. I don't think any woman wants to hear that. So vulnerability, there's a degree of timing. At the first time you meet somebody, you don't unleash all your trauma. So absolutely a degree of authenticity and vulnerability is required. But the more you get to know somebody, the more you share with them, gradually.
Jonathan in Dublin is wondering, he says, you're both talking about relationships as if relationships are heterosexual when a man meets a woman, etc. What about the same-sex relationships?
Personally, no experience. I'm sure a lot of the same rules apply. I have family members who have homosexual relationships. Again, all men and all women, whether they're homosexual or heterosexual, they have masculine and feminine energy. I just have no personal experience with it.
Just in general,
By the way, the far majority of relationships are heterosexual. The crazy concept. Just trying to see, do you hate gays? Are you homophobic? Well, in fact, I'm not.
Reaction that you get, online, and look, you have obviously a very large following between Instagram and...
I'm for individual happiness, people. Do whatever you want to do. Do whatever makes you happy.
And Twitter and on Facebook.
But understand the framing and the associations that are trying to be created, and then don't play into them. By the way, this goes beyond dating, okay? You can do this on the date as well, but this goes way further than just the immediate context of the first date.
As well, or an ex as well. Are you surprised by some of the reaction that you get or commentary?
I've been very surprised about a lot of reactions over the years, yeah.
Now, pay attention.
Negatively or positively? Both.
Again, tied and short, and now it's like, ooh, there's an opportunity. Because obviously she's implying negative, but it gives me an opportunity to bring in something positive. Watch.
And in what way, David?
Some are extraordinarily positive, some are, you've changed my life. With clients, I see it, and even just with people who watch my content, they say, okay, I was able to find somebody, that's amazing. I was able to have a conversation where I was able to be more honest. And then some people say, like, really violent stuff, yeah? And it's not nice to read these things online, but you realize if somebody talks bad about you online, and I'm sure you must have received some of that over the years yourself without...
Bitter relatability, because I'm sure she has gotten hate for totally unjustifiable hate towards her as a person, okay? So she knows what it's like. She'll be able to relate. Again, make it human. Talk to the human.
Knowing you, they're coming from a place of pain. Because I'm pretty confident that I can sit down with most people on the planet, not with everybody, and find a degree of common ground and be able to explain things in a very human way. It's very easy to prejudge something if you just hear it from the outside.
Okay, all right, listen, social media personality and dating expert David Meessen. David, thank you for joining us here
thank you so much.
On Lunchtime Live today.
That was it. Oops. All right. One of my favorite songs here. Let me just put this in the middle. Great. Hope you got learnings from this. And listen, if you're a man who's doing well in your career or your business and you want to find the right woman to share your life with, click the link in my bio and apply for a free initial consultation. Looking forward to speaking with you soon.